Congratulations. My God, you did an outstanding job as Thorin. Really, like, were you kind of pinching yourself when you found out that you had gotten this role and were going to be a part of this amazing experience?
Yeah, you know, the excitement building up to an audition where you think, I've got to get the job, I've got to go in there and get the job, and you do all of this work and you get excited about the casting. And then the phone rings and they offer it to you, and you think, oh shit, I've now got to come and play this. That's the scary bit is, you know, you've got to own the responsibility of everyone who's ever read this book and has Thorin in their head. You've got to take on that mantle and not disappoint them. And that's when the scary bit happens. So, yeah, excited and incredibly fearful.
But you did it. You did
Wow.
such a good job. And I have to think, here you are, a gentleman who's, 6'2", and you're playing a dwarf. Really?
That was exactly my reaction. Really? Yeah. I mean, I suppose once you start investigating the character, you realize that it's that their size is just of no importance to them. It's important to Peter, who's trying to create a look for the film and to mix races together. But dwarves really don't associate with many other folk. They particularly don't associate with elves because of this ongoing antagonism. So they live in pretty much isolation. So they think that they're massive and they build huge monuments to themselves and they have big egos. And we spent most of the shoot bigger versions of ourselves. So it all seems to slot into place when you talk about it like that.
Yeah. How did you, and prepare in terms of, I mean, having that costume had to wait a lot. You grew your own beard. You're wearing this wig. Seriously, like that's a lot to worry about aside from the acting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I do think that for me, acting in that type of genre is 90% concentration. So not being distracted by your, how uncomfortable you are it takes focus. And I know that occasionally there were certain scenes where, it did slip and I got very frustrated with how uncomfortable I was. But, it's just a skill. It's a way of just forgetting about how you feel and focusing on the character and how the character feels. And having that clarity is all about what the preparation is of how much you've investigated the character.
Right. Tell me about the camaraderie and how you built it between you and your fellow dwarves, because just on screen it was just wonderful. That was my favorite part, watching all of you guys, really.
Yeah, we were together at the very beginning before any of the other cast arrived, and we did a dwarf boot camp together. So we trained together. It was like preparing for a military operation, and all sorts of ages and skills amongst the dwarves as well. So the camaraderie came by, looking after the slightly older members and working out what our hierarchy was. We rode together, archery, sword fighting, wrestling, in the gym together, drinking in the pub together,
Yeah, things that dwarves do.
Cooking around each other's houses, things that dwarves do, lots of eating and drinking, yeah.
Tell me your impressions of working with Martin Freeman again. Another really important role to take on. I thought he did a wonderful job.
I've always been amused and fascinated by Martin's work, and it was great to see him inhabit Bilbo and bring a little bit of Martin into Bilbo Baggins as well, because it comes to life, and he really. There's so much humour. I love that scene in the troll shore, where he's negotiating with them about the cooking of a dwarf, and I watch it and belly laugh at his comic timing. I think he's an absolute genius, and I could never get close to anything like what he does, but I'm happy to sit there and enjoy his work. I think he's amazing.
Yeah. Very physical role, Richard, it looks like. Is it true that you got a little injured too? You busted your lip or something?
Yeah, that was on Andy's set, and it's interesting because both Peter and Andy, when it came to the physical work, would allow me to do most of the stunts myself, which was great for me. And it's not about any kind of bravado. It was because when you do all of the stunts, it gets you closer to the character. You feel like you really are playing the character. I hated handing it over to somebody else. And we had quite an extensive fight sequence, which we'd rehearsed at ground level. And then, because they're orcs, they have to be bigger than us, so they put them on platforms. So everything gets higher by about a foot. And I smashed myself in the face with a shield, and I was livid and, so frustrated that we might have to stop filming. And, but Andy sort of came up with a mirror and said, "Take a look at your face." And I was like, "It looks really good. So let's carry on." And we finished the shot, and I think it's in the movie. So
it worked.
It worked.
Let's talk about Andy Serkis, because unfortunately you don't get to work opposite him as with his motion capture, but he got to direct you. He did a lot of second unit stuff. Wow, I mean, really, to work with a man like that?
Yeah, and you think, I thought going onto Andy's set, he'll understand what actors go through, and he'll have sympathy. No sympathy at all. He was absolutely ruthless. He, what I love about both Andy and Peter as directors is that they have a kind of childlike imagination, which is sort of limitless, whereby most adults will start to limit themselves. They think way outside of the box. And it was as much fun and as creative to work on second unit with Andy as it was with Peter. And they'd kind of cross over, like Pete would come onto Andy's set and sort of they'd watch it together and negotiate. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun working with Andy.
I can imagine. I can't wait for the next two films.
Yeah,
Boy, I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff in store.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to ask you, was there somebody, going back, looking at you when you decided to become an actor, was there somebody that you watched or a movie that you saw that made you decide, I want to do this for my living?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose James Stewart was somebody that I admired, but also in a more, Gary Oldman was somebody that really inspired me, because I'd often watch movies with Gary and not really realize it was him, even when he wasn't covered in in prosthetics or costume. He manages to disappear into his role, and I hope that I might be able to achieve something similar.
I think you have with this one, my friend. You've got nowhere to go but up from here. I'm telling you, it's a fantastic job in this movie, and a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you.
Thanks very much.
Best of luck with everything.